Welcome. You're here now, in a place far away from urgency, from deadlines, from the unquiet pull of the world above. Let your breath soften. Let the tension settle like morning mist over moss. Imagine yourself stepping gently into an ancient forest where sunlight falls in scattered patches, softened by a canopy so high it seems to float. The air is damp, cool, and faintly earthy, carrying the scent of pine needles, wet bark, and leaf mold. But this is not a story of towering trees and windswept branches. This is a story of the world beneath your feet, the quiet, slow realm of the forest floor. Down here, time moves differently. It moves with the hush of falling leaves and the slow work of decay. It is a world rarely noticed, yet endlessly alive, where beetles tunnel unseen, mushrooms bloom and wither in silence, and networks of mycelium thread through soil like thoughts moving through the mind of the forest. You don't need to do anything now, just rest and let this journey unfold softly around you. In this video, we'll drift gently through 4 parts of the forest floor's quiet life. First, we'll lie still and listen to a day as it passes under the canopy. Then we'll follow the quiet life of a single fallen leaf. Next, we'll uncover the hidden network that connects trees and fungi, a slow conversation beneath our boots. Finally, we'll reflect on the quiet reverence humans have always felt for woodland places, and ancient myths and modern healing. Let's begin with a single sun-dappled day beneath the trees. Imagine yourself lying on the soft, uneven carpet of the forest floor. The ground is thick with moss springy and damp under your back. A few fallen leaves cling to your clothes, and somewhere nearby, a tiny twig has snapped beneath a careful paw. The air is cool, filtered through the endless green canopy above. You can just make out shafts of pale morning light angling in through the leaves like golden ribbons, touching the bark of tall trunks and vanishing into shadow. Here, beneath the trees, a quiet world stirs to life. It is morning, and the forest is slow to wake. Mist clings to the underbrush, pooling in hollows and between roots. Beads of dew gather on the heads of mushrooms, tiny domes of red, brown, and ivory. A slug moves silently across a patch of lichen, leaving a shimmer in its wake. You notice how still it is here, how careful, how gentle. Between moss-covered stones, tiny insects emerge, brushing antennae against the air as though tasting the day. A small, striped spider crawls out from beneath a bark fragment, trailing gossamer thread that glints briefly before fading into the dim light. A beetle clicks softly as it turns over a leaf, its dark shell patterned like polished wood. Deeper in the mulch, pale roots begin to stretch. Unseen, they absorb the morning's dampness, sensing moisture as precisely as a fingertip senses touch. They move almost imperceptibly, but always with purpose, responding to the changing shape of the soil, the tilt of water, the pull of nearby plants. And in the hush, you begin to feel it too, that gentle rhythm of the forest, unhurried, persistent, endless. Now it is midday. The forest above becomes a play of light and shifting green. Leaves whisper against each other in a breeze you cannot feel. A squirrel scurries briefly across a fallen log, then vanishes again into branches. But here on the floor, everything moves more slowly. Time is thick. You watch as a centipede weaves its way across a patch of bark, legs moving in seamless coordination. A tiny frog, no bigger than your thumb, sits half hidden beneath a fern. Its skin matches the leaf litter exactly. It blinks once. Then again, stillness is its way of being, and you begin to realize that much of life here is not about doing. It is about being in the shelter of old roots, being in the comfort of rot and renewal, being in the quiet company of moss, beetle, and fungi. There is a sense of intimacy here, a closeness. Everything is connected, though nothing rushes to explain itself. You breathe in and feel the scent of earth dark, grounding, soft, the smell of things breaking down and beginning again. Evening, the quiet shift. The sun begins to lower and the light changes. It becomes gold first, then bronze, then something like shadowed honey. The trunks of trees cast long slanted lines across the underbrush. Somewhere an owl calls once, though you don't see it. Evening brings a subtle shift. Life is changing shifts, not slowing, just transforming. A raccoon's rustle can be heard far off, padded feet brushing against dry leaf and twig. The insects of the day give way to those of the dusk. Moths flutter quietly through the undergrowth, their wings catching only hints of remaining light. You see mushrooms now that weren't visible before, pale caps that seem to glow slightly in the dusk. They rise like tiny sentinels, feeding on wood that crumbles slowly beneath them. Everything is decay and life intertwined. And then, as twilight deepens, something extraordinary begins to happen. Night, the glow and the stillness. The darkness comes not all at once, but gradually, layer by layer, like a curtain drawn softly across the forest. And then, softly, faintly, a glow. There is no electricity here, no firelight, and yet certain fungi begin to emit their own light. A gentle, greenish bioluminescence. It is not bright. You must wait for your eyes to adjust. But it is there. The forest floor glows in patches, under bark, along fallen branches, and the undersides of logs. The light is steady, patient, like the breath of something ancient. If you remain still, and you do, you may hear nothing at all, not because the forest is empty, but because the forest is resting. Beneath you, the life of the soil continues. Worms push gently through darkened paths. Mycelium pulses silently. Everything is breathing, everything is still. You are not separate from this place. You are lying in the arms of something old and endlessly kind, and as the night deepens, the hush only grows. This is the world beneath the canopy, a place of slow breath and ancient memory, a place that does not ask you to act or change, only to notice. When you're ready, we'll follow the next part of our journey, the life of a single fallen leaf. Let us begin again, this time by noticing something simple. A leaf, small, papery, light enough to be carried on the gentlest breeze. It once fluttered high in the canopy, part of a broad crown of green, absorbing sunlight and sending sugar downward to its tree's roots. It trembled in the wind, bathed in rain, and whispered with its neighbors in the hush of the forest. But now, it falls. Silently, slowly, spinning through filtered light. It lands on the forest floor with barely a sound, so gently that even the moss beneath it hardly stirs. And so begins the quiet second life of this leaf, a journey not of growth, but of transformation. For a time, the leaf simply rests. It lies amid many others, brown, yellow, curled at the edges. The air is cooler now. Autumn has crept in. The leaf grows brittle in the changing air, its once supple skin now dry and veined like aged parchment. Sunlight still touches it, though with less warmth. As it lies still, tiny visitors begin to arrive. Minute springtails, no larger than a grain of sand, hop across its surface. Ants investigate its folds and holes, pausing to groom themselves before continuing their search. To the passing glance, the leaf is lifeless. But down here, it is becoming something more than it was. It is shelter. It is a roof, a shade, a resting place. A miniature landscape. In the folds of the leaf, new lives begin. A tiny mite lays eggs in the soft tissue. Fungus spores settle on the veins. A slender larva curls into a coil inside a sheltered crease, safe from predators, invisible from above. Moisture returns, drawn up from the soil and moss beneath. In the moist dark, mold threads begin to spread white and feathery, delicate as frost on glass. The leaf begins to soften, its rigid frame breaking down at the edges. The transformation is quiet. There is no decay without purpose here. Each layer of the leaf becomes a meal, a home, or a path for something else. You begin to see that death is not an end, but a soft unfolding. Weeks pass, rain falls gently, soaking the forest floor. The leaf, now darker and spotted with lichen, begins to disintegrate. It's no longer a single object, but a collection of pieces fragments. Its edges curl inward, its color deepens to brown-black. Threads of fungus pull it apart slowly, efficiently, without hurry. Millipedes chew through its softer parts. Bacteria dissolve what's too small to see. Everything works in balance. Nothing is wasted. What once caught the light now feeds the dark. In time, the leaf is no longer recognizable. Its fragments have become humus, a fine, dark soil filled with nutrients. And from that humus, new roots drink deeply. Perhaps from the very same tree the leaf once belonged to. Imagine now a sapling. It has pushed through the soil just weeks ago, its tender shoot bending toward the light above. The nutrients that nourish it, the minerals in its veins, may once have been part of that fallen leaf. The cycle has completed itself, not with ceremony, but with quiet devotion. Nothing wasted. Nothing hurried. In this way, the forest feeds itself. Leaves become life. Decay becomes renewal. And so, the journey of a single leaf becomes the forest's own rhythm. Endless, patient, complete. You can rest in this knowledge that every ending here is a soft beginning. The hush of the forest continues. And beneath the canopy, the world turns slowly, kindly once again. In our next chapter, we'll look even deeper beneath the soil itself. We'll explore the invisible threads that connect the forest together, the mycelium, a network older than trees, a quiet intelligence flowing beneath every step. Now, let us move deeper still. We've wandered through the forest floor. We've followed the quiet fall and return of a single leaf. And now we turn our attention to what lies beneath even that, beneath the mulch, beneath the roots, in the soft, dark architecture of the soil. This is a hidden world, invisible to the eye, yet always there. Sprawling, pulsing, listening, it is the mycelium, a delicate, web-like network of fungal threads called hyphae that spreads beneath your feet, connecting roots and trees, stones and seedlings in a kind of natural internet, but one made of softness and silence. It does not glow or hum. It does not speak in words, but it communicates. Let's lie still again. Let's imagine the ground parting gently and see what lies below. The mycelium weaves through the soil like hair-thin threads, thousands of kilometers in a single patch of woods, branching endlessly, yet so fine they pass through spaces too small for even water to enter. To look at it is to see lace spun from shadow, fragile and substantial, and yet mycelium is among the most powerful living systems on Earth. It does what no plant or animal can do. It breaks down dead matter and makes it into food. It transforms bark into sugar, leaves into soil, and bones into minerals that roots can drink. And it doesn't work alone. It partners with trees, forming symbiotic relationships, wrapping itself around their roots, forming tight, intimate bonds. The trees give it sugars. The fungi give back water, phosphorus, and nitrogen. Neither could thrive without the other. They are, in every sense, communicating, not with voices, not with sound, but with chemistry, with impulse, with need. It is the quiet conversation of life itself. Scientists once believed trees lived in competition, each one growing taller to steal the light. But now we know that they are connected, often quite literally. Through these fungal highways, through mycelium, trees send signals to each other. A sick tree can send out distress calls, chemical markers alerting nearby trees. A mother tree can send sugars to her seedlings. In times of drought, nutrients are redirected. In times of insect attack, warnings are passed along. It is not magic. It is not myth. It is simply biology, operating at the speed of silence. When you stand in a forest, you may see a dozen trees, but you are looking at just one part of a much larger hidden whole. An organism that thinks in seasons and breathes in centuries. When we see a mushroom in the woods, what we are really seeing is just the fruiting body, the tip of the iceberg. A brief emergence, a signal, a flicker. The rest, the mycelium, stays below, silent, sprawling, endlessly working. Some mushrooms appear overnight, lifting themselves from damp soil like pale lanterns. Others grow slowly bulbous, ridged, alien in shape. Some glow faintly in the dark, emitting light from a process still not fully understood. Some are soft to the touch. Others crumble out of breath, but all are part of the same vast interconnected being. Even as the mushroom withers and falls, the network remains. It remembers, it adjusts, it endures. There's a theory growing, still debated, that mycelium may retain a kind of memory, that its reactions to future events are shaped by what it has learned before, that the forest, in a way, may be thinking, but thinking not like us, not in language or thought, but in growth and restraint, in quiet adaptation, in the rhythms of the living earth. And whether or not that is true in the strictest sense, we know this much. The forest remembers the past in its soil. It carries the ghosts of fallen trees, the whispers of seasons long gone, the promise of all that is to come. The mycelium is the keeper of that memory. You may never see it, but you walk upon it every day. And in that silence, there is a kind of peace. In the final part of our journey, we'll leave behind the science and sink into something older. We'll explore the myths and reverence that humans have long held for the forest. From ancient druids to modern forest bathing, from sacred groves to quiet walks, we'll trace the human spirit's bond with the trees. Now we turn gently from root and thread, from leaf and soil, to the stories we carry within us. The forest has always held a place in the human imagination, not just as a source of shelter or food, but as something sacred, something more than the sum of its parts. Across continents and centuries, beneath different skies and tongues, people have entered forests not only to survive, but to listen, to remember, to become still. In this final part of our journey, we'll drift through the myths, rituals, and quiet understandings that bind us to the woodland. We'll explore how ancient people revered trees as beings of wisdom, how stories emerged in the hush between trunks, and how, even now, the forest holds a space for healing, wonder, and return. Let yourself wander now through time. In ancient times, certain patches of forests were set apart. Sacred groves, they were called, cleared not by hands, but by reverence. In the Celtic lands, the Druids believed trees held spirits, and oaks especially were revered as doorways between worlds. In Baltic and Slavic traditions, groves were left untouched, not out of neglect, but out of awe. To step into them was to enter a temple without walls. Even the word temple itself, in its oldest form, may come from a root meaning to cut out, to set apart a piece of space for the sacred. The forest did not need building. It was already holy. Here, people whispered prayers to the trees, left offerings at their roots, sought wisdom in their rustling. Even today, in parts of India, sacred groves remain forest patches where no trees may be cut, where animals roam in quiet protection, and where spirits are still believed to dwell. To enter such a grove is to feel something shift, not in the forest, but in you. Throughout myth, trees appear not as background, but as characters. In Norse legend, the great ash tree Yggdrasil held up the worlds, its roots in shadow, its branches in the heavens. In Japan, the Shinboku spirit trees are marked with paper streamers and left undisturbed, thought to house kami, or divine presence. In Africa, the baobab is called the tree of life, its hollow trunks used as meeting places, homes, even tombs. And in all these traditions, the trees were not passive. They remembered, they witnessed, they endured. They stood long after words were forgotten, watching the rise and fall of stories, seasons, and generations. And even now, when we walk among ancient trees, there is often a hush that falls not from fear, but from recognition. Something in us still remembers that trees were once teachers, and in a quiet way, they still are. Not all myths are old. Some are made quietly in the rhythm of modern life. Today, we hear more and more about forest bathing, a practice that began in Japan as Shinrin-yoku. It asks nothing of us. It offers no goal. It is simply the act of being among trees, slowly, with attention. Research now shows what ancient wisdom already knew, that walking in a forest lowers stress, that blood pressure falls, that attention softens, that the mind, so often filled with clutter, begins to settle. You do not need to do anything. Just be. The same way moss grows, the same way light drifts through pine needles, the same way the roots move unseen. This is not escape. This is return. Many cultures have believed that humans and trees are cousins born of the same earth, drinking the same rain, breathing the same air. There is a word in some old traditions, animism, the idea that all things have a soul, a rock, a stream, a tree, not as metaphor, but truly. And perhaps, even if we don't speak of souls, we still feel it. When you rest beneath a tree and feel a kind of steadiness, when you lean against its bark and feel supported, when you place your hand on a trunk and close your eyes and your thoughts slow, that is not imagination, that is remembering. We are not separate from the forest, we never were. There are trees older than history, older than empires, older than the languages used to name them. Bristlecone pines in the western United States have lived for more than 4,000 years. Yews in Europe have watched over graveyards since before the church walls were built. The Jaya Sri Maha Bodhi in Sri Lanka is a cutting from the very tree under which the Buddha is said to have attained enlightenment, planted in the 3rd century BCE, and still standing today. These trees are not just alive, they are memory. They are continuity. They are the silent elders of our world. And whether we worship, meditate, grieve, or simply sit among them, they receive us with the same gentle patience the forest does not demand. It only offers. As we come to the close of our journey, you may begin to feel a kind of stillness deep inside your chest, a quietness that is not emptiness, but peace. The forest floor, the leaf, the mycelium, the myth, they are all part of the same story. One of rhythm, of return, of rest. Let us now drift into that final resting place of thought. The quiet night, the sleeping forest, the comfort of now. As our journey through the forest floor comes gently to a close, we find ourselves wrapped not in endings, but in continuity cycles that have no sharp edges, only soft turns. Beneath the towering canopy and among the roots, a quieter world has revealed itself. We began by simply lying still, noticing the slow arc of a single day beneath the trees, how morning dew collects on mushrooms, how beetles burrow unseen, how the light changes without hurry. We listened to the rhythms of a space that moves on forest time, where every sound is softened and every moment stretches into the next like a stream of mossy breath. Then we followed the life of a fallen leaf, tracing its delicate descent from vibrant green to gentle decay, as it offered shelter to unseen creatures and ultimately returned itself to the earth in a gesture of quiet generosity. That leaf, once part of the canopy, became part of the floor, and then the soil, nourishing the next generation with what it left behind. It reminded us that in nature, nothing is truly lost, only transformed. Beneath even that, we discovered the mysterious and essential network of mycelium, a vast, invisible architecture of fungal threads that weaves together the lives of trees, roots, and soil in a silent communication older than words. This hidden world doesn't call attention to itself, but it is the forest's lifeblood, breaking down what has fallen, feeding what is growing, and forming partnerships that sustain entire ecosystems. It is a quiet web of memory and cooperation, delicate yet resilient, stretching across time and space, connecting even the most distant trunks in a living dialogue of nourishment and response. And finally, we turn to the way human beings, across ages and cultures, have found meaning, peace, and reverence in the presence of trees. From the sacred groves of the Druids to the Yggdrasil of Norse myth, from forest bathing in Japan to sacred trees still honored today, we have long recognized something more than beauty in the woodland realm. We have seen wisdom, presence, and reflection. Trees, in their silence, have mirrored back our own need for rootedness, patience, and renewal. The forest floor, often overlooked, is not simply where things fall. It is where they begin again. It is a space of rest, transformation, and unseen vitality, a world that holds the weight of time with gentle ease. And just as the moss welcomes the leaf, the soil accepts the root, and the mycelium carries whispers from tree to tree, this forest also welcomes you. You are part of its story, not as an observer, but as a quiet participant in the great breath of the living world. There is no need now for thought or motion. Just let yourself sink into this stillness. The hush of the forest is beneath you, around you, within you. Everything continues, everything rests, and now so can you. If you found peace in this journey, you're welcome to return anytime. And if there is a corner of the natural world or the universe you'd like us to gently explore next, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear what quiet wonders you'd like to fall asleep to next. Your quiet curiosity helps guide where we wander next. Good night.